Before the lawsuits, before the federal investigation, before the whispers turned into court filings, there was Kim Porter, the woman behind the flashbulbs, the one who knew everything and said nothing until now, because what's surfacing about her may be the very thing that finally brings Sean Diddy Combs down. For years, Diddy walked through scandals like he was untouchable, and to be fair, he kind of was. There were rumors, settlements, quiet exits, but nothing ever stuck. Nothing ever slowed him down. That was until the feds got involved, and the one name that keeps circling back isn't Cassie, isn't Daphne Joy. It's Kim. Kim Porter wasn't just a former girlfriend. She was the mother of his children, the woman who stood by him through the 90s, through Bad Boy records, through the shiny suits and the heartbreak. She was there for the rise, and by all accounts, she was the one who saw the real Diddy, the one behind the public image, the one behind the closed doors. And now her silence may be broken through her own words. The federal government has begun outlining its case against Diddy, and buried in the court filings is a chilling request. They want to include statements and text messages from someone close to Diddy who is no longer alive. You don't need a law degree or an inside source to figure out who that could be. Kim Porter is the name on everyone's lips, and that possibility has Diddy's entire legal team scrambling. His lawyers aren't just asking for standard motions, they're practically begging the court to exclude any messages, admissions, or diary entries from the deceased. Think about that. They're not denying these messages exist. They're just trying to make sure you, the jury, never see them. And that's where things start to unravel. Because if Kim left behind a diary, a journal, or even a few text messages, and if those messages say what many believe they do, Diddy might not just be facing a trial. He could be facing a legacy-shattering fall from grace. For years, people close to Kim whispered that she had stories, that she'd seen too much, that she knew too much. And now, the feds might be ready to confirm it. But Diddy's team? They want it all shut down. They filed motions claiming these so-called messages are prejudicial, untested, and incendiary. They say it's unfair to bring up testimony from someone who can't be cross-examined. But here's the thing, you can't demand the truth and then ask the court to ignore it just because it's inconvenient, especially when you've spent decades controlling every narrative around you. And Diddy is no stranger to narrative control. From his earliest days as a mogul, he mastered image. He crafted himself as the visionary, the tastemaker, the man who turned Biggie into a legend and turned Bad Boy into a movement. But behind every empire is a cost, and now the feds are counting every penny. According to reports, the evidence in question isn't just about what Diddy said, it's about how he operated, the alleged pattern, the way he treated women, the power dynamics, the silencing, the manipulation, the things he thought would stay behind closed doors. If Kim Porter documented even part of that, if she wrote down what she saw, what she experienced, or what others told her, it could destroy the image he spent decades building. And that's exactly why this feels different. Because Kim wasn't an accuser. She wasn't suing him. She wasn't seeking the spotlight. She was private, loyal, and deeply tied to him, even after their romantic relationship ended. So if even she had concerns, if even she left behind warnings, it adds weight the other allegations can't match. It turns speculation into pattern. It turns rumor into reckoning. And that's why Diddy's team is panicking. They know that if Kim's words make it into court, it's over. Not just legally, but culturally, because this isn't just about one man. It's about the system he represents, the industry that protected him, the silence that shielded him, and the woman who may now, even in death, be the one to bring it all crashing down. Let's rewind. Kim Porter passed away in November 2018. The official cause? Lobar pneumonia. But even at the time, something about it didn't sit right with people. Friends, family, fans, and especially Al B. Sure, Kim's ex and the father of her first son, Quincy. He's spoken out on multiple occasions, stating that Kim didn't just die, that she was taken out. And while some dismissed it as grief or speculation, others took it seriously. Because Al wasn't just guessing. He claimed Kim had told him she feared for her life. She allegedly said, "If anything happens to me, look into it." Now, let's fast forward to today. Diddy is facing a federal case that reads like a Hollywood thriller. RICO charges, trafficking allegations, witnesses overseas. The government is laying out a narrative of manipulation, control, and systematic abuse, spanning decades. And in the middle of that storm, the late Kim Porter's name quietly resurfaces, but this time backed by legal filings. Diddy's lawyers argue that these messages from the grave are irrelevant. But that's not what the feds believe, because this isn't about proving every accusation happened exactly as claimed. It's about establishing a pattern of exploitation, a pattern of psychological control, and most damning of all, a pattern of abuse that even reached those closest to him. And Kim? She wasn't just close. She was inside the world, the mother of his children, the woman who shared his home, his secrets, his chaos. Her words hold weight, and Diddy knows it. That's why his team is desperately trying to delay the trial. Despite being the ones who demanded a speedy court date, they're now screaming that they're not ready, that the government brought in too much evidence, that the allegations are too old, that the witnesses are too many, that it's unfair. Unfair? After all these years, after decades of power and privilege, now it's unfair because the truth doesn't play by your schedule. And it's not just about Kim's potential diary or texts. The government is lining up a long list of witnesses, co-conspirators, and victims, some living, some gone. And the story they're telling isn't isolated. It's consistent, it's ugly, and it points directly at Diddy. Behind the scenes, insiders say this is exactly what Diddy feared. Not the press, not the lawsuits, not even the criminal charges, but the silence breaking. The people who always protected him, for fear, for loyalty, for money, finally speaking out. And Kim, in her own way, may be speaking louder than anyone else, because there's a particular kind of danger in someone who didn't want the spotlight while they were alive. Kim Porter wasn't chasing headlines. She wasn't writing tell-all books. She wasn't blasting Diddy on Instagram. She loved her kids. She stayed quiet. She stayed gracious. But sometimes, quiet women leave loud legacies. And the very things Diddy believed were buried with her may now become Exhibit A. His team claims this evidence will prejudice the jury, that it will be emotionally charged, that it will make Diddy look bad. But here's the thing. If the evidence paints a damning picture, maybe the issue isn't the evidence. Maybe it's the behavior that created it. And no amount of fame, no amount of throwback photos with Biggie, no amount of motivational quotes on Instagram Live is going to erase what people are now starting to believe. That the man who danced in shiny suits in the 90s has been hiding in plain sight all along. And when it comes to Kim, her legacy may be shifting. She may no longer be remembered just as Diddy's ex, or as a model, or as a mother. She may become something far more powerful, the woman whose words broke the silence even after death. In the world of celebrity scandals, most headlines fade in a week. But this one, it keeps growing, because it's no longer just about Diddy. It's about the system that allowed him to operate unchecked for decades. Ask yourself, how many people knew? How many assistants, producers, stylists, bodyguards? How many stood by, watched the chaos, and stayed silent. When someone like Diddy falls, it never happens in a vacuum. There's always a trail of enablers, of ignored red flags, of doors quietly closed when someone tried to speak up. And in Kim Porter's case, we may be seeing what happens when a woman's truth is finally allowed to surface, even if she's not here to speak it herself. See, this is bigger than Diddy. It's about the unspoken power dynamics in the music industry. The men who build empires off the backs of women, then discard them. The gatekeepers who silence accusations. The executives who label survivors as liabilities. And the fans, yes, even the fans, who too often choose nostalgia over accountability. Because let's be honest, if this were someone else, someone with less money, less fame, would we even be debating this? Would we be hesitating to believe the pattern? Or would we call it what it is? What's happening to Diddy now isn't a takedown. It's a reckoning, a slow, uncomfortable unraveling of a man who built his entire brand on invincibility. From bad boy to mogul status, Diddy presented himself as untouchable. He danced through lawsuits, glided through rumors, reinvented himself every time the spotlight got too hot. But this time, the heat's not coming from TMZ or the blogs. It's coming from the federal government, and they don't care about optics. They care about patterns, about consistency, about building a case with teeth. And when they bring up Kim Porter, it's not just sentiment, it's strategy. Because the version of Diddy she knew behind closed doors might be the real one. And her voice, in the form of texts, diaries, testimony from people close to her, could very well shift the entire case. Now, whether or not those messages will be admitted in court remains to be seen. The judge will have to decide whether their emotional weight outweighs their legal value. But here's the twist. Even if those words never make it into the courtroom, they've already reached the court of public opinion. And in that court, the verdict is shifting fast. Because people are starting to connect the dots. The strange silence after Kim's death, the whispers from Al B, sure, the sudden panic in Diddy's legal team now that her name is surfacing again. The dots don't lie. And if Diddy is truly innocent, then why the desperation to suppress? Why the urgency to block a woman's voice after she's already gone? There's something chilling about that. The truth is, Diddy is no longer in control of the narrative. And for someone who's spent his entire career branding, spinning, and reshaping how the world sees him, that loss of control might be the scariest part of all. Because when power starts to slip, secrets follow. And in this case, the biggest secret might have been buried with Kim Porter. Until now. So, what do you think? Is the government using Kim Porter to build a case against Diddy? Or is her voice finally being heard after years of silence? Let us know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments, and stay tuned for more true celebrity stories.